It is Friday, September 27th, 2024. This is another edition of Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL. That is Bobby Skinner. I am Chris Rose. Justin Pennick, he's off tailgating because at the time we're recording this, getting ready for a little Thursday night football between the Giants and Cowboys. Do you miss our little buddy? Are you sending good thoughts to him via tailgate? I don't know what
Um,
that would be. ESP, I suppose.
you just win. That's all. I don't care if Justin has a good time. I just want the Giants to win. That's all I care about tonight. And they probably didn't. And if you want to hear more about it, there's probably a new episode of Talking Giants out already.
Wow, come on now. You come on, Mr. Grumpy. You just dismantled my team. And now you're going to take down America's team and you're going to be 500 and they're going to be 1-3. So there you go. There's my prediction. I think the G-men get a win.
How about that? Does that count against the records, which we've all been pretty
Oh
off
my
this year?
god. Oh my god. Last week was dreadful. We almost lost our
It's going to even out. It's going to even out. Always
Is it?
does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll see how we do this week. Let's get started with what I think is probably the most fascinating matchup, and that is the unbeaten Vikings taking their show on the road to take on the Green Bay Packers. So Minnesota's 3-0, Green Bay 2-1. The winner will be in first place in the NFC North based on a divisional record. As of the time of this taping, we don't know 100% that Jordan Love is going to play or miss his third straight game. So we might have Malik Willis. We might have Jordan Love. Obviously, that's going to massively affect the way that we see this game. One thing that is for certain is that Aaron Jones returns to his old stomping grounds. Really wrote a nice column, talked about how much he loved Green Bay, the people of Green Bay, the Packers organization. He's going to get a great ovation. Don't you think he's going to get a great ovation this weekend?
I hope so. This is where you're online too much, where it's like I've seen like Packers fans take shots, and I'm like, that's probably not 99%. That's probably just the 1% that ends up my time. Yeah, he should. Aaron Jones is an awesome player. And you know, I think he's like the most underrated addition of the offseason for the Vikings. Like, I think he's a big part of why they're winning. But yeah, he should. But I also love a revenge game. Even as nice as he's being, he wants to beat his former team.
Let's start with this, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because we don't know who's going to quarterback. But can Green Bay upend Minnesota if Jordan Love does not play?
The last 2 weeks, I said they won it, and they end up doing it, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
because they're so good at running the ball, right? As running the ball, had a resurgence in the NFL. They're the best at it. They have the number one rushing offense in the NFL, and they haven't even got to play the Cowboys this yet to boost that total. Um, but the Vikings are really good at stopping the run. They're the number two rushing defense. So, like, I would say no, but I really like this matchup versus the Packers. I think Jordan Love may play again. We don't know, but I think this is a good matchup. I think defensively they match up well against the Vikings offense, where maybe McKinney can get another turnover, or somebody on that defense get a turnover versus Sam Darnold. So yeah, I do think they can. Like, when you have that type of rushing offense, I think you stay in games.
Well, the Green Bay Packers are the only team in the NFL that have more interceptions than the Minnesota Vikings. So these are two early season ball hawking defenses. Sam Darnold has been nothing short of fantastic. And I know that you're not buying in all the way, and I get it, but he does lead the NFL with 8 touchdown passes. He has thrown multiple touchdown passes in every game. Now, you'll remember his first season in Carolina, they also got off to a
3
3-0
and 0.
start. Yep. And then they got railroaded, I think, on the road in Dallas, I want to say, maybe in week 4. And then it kind of fell apart after that. I don't see that happening with this coaching staff. Has there been a better combo of offensive play caller in Kevin O'Connell and defensive mastermind in Brian Flores than these two in the first 3 weeks?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, there's other combos that have done really well. This, in Seattle, they've done really well. But I really don't think so, because again, this defense lost talent and this offense lost their quarterback. Um, and they're 3-0. They have, an awesome defense, and all, like, they're just great on both sides of the football. And yeah, I don't think so. Like, what Brian Flores is doing is pretty special, right? And they beat the 49ers. They beat the Houston Texans. Those are two Super Bowl favorites. And then offensively, we knew that this is a great situation for a quarterback, partly because of the talent. You have a Justin Jefferson, the tackle duo, but specifically because you have Kevin O'Connell there, who's, pushing all the buttons on that offense.
And defensively, we've talked about Brian Flores and what he does with his different looks and his pressures and everything else. The additions of Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel have been great. But a guy there who has gotten no love, we haven't mentioned him yet, is Pat Jones. And he's always been a guy who I thought he looked, you know, like he had the ability, looked like he should be able to rush the passer. He finally has 4 sacks this year, so he is certainly helping out as well. One other thing, Justin Jefferson, who I think might be my favorite player in the NFL. I love watching him play. I love his attitude. I love everything about him. 30 100-yard receiving games. His next one will break a tie with Randy Moss for the most through a player's first 5 seasons. I know that's inflated because of the way we throw the ball these days, but still, I just wanted to get that out there because I dig him, and I think the battle between he and Jair Alexander's done a pretty good job against him in the few years that they've had battles. That's one of those matchups I'm going to look forward to.
Yeah, that's a matchup that I wrote down. Now I think Justin Jefferson ends up taking that, but Jair Alexander's got no fear in his game, and he's going to look to get that. Now Justin Jefferson's going to get his, right? I know, again, like you mentioned, that Alexander's won that matchup before, but I really think Jefferson's going to get his in this matchup. I think the key to stopping this Vikings offense is making Darnold pay on some bad mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one's really done that yet, and there has been a few. Make him pay for some bad mistakes, bait him into some throws because he's trusting that offense. The way you beat an offense that has an offensive play caller like that is by baiting the quarterback into the stuff that he likes, and then taking advantage of it. And I think the Packers can do that with McKinney and Javon Buller, their rookie safety. So, but I'm so excited to see. This will be the game I'm locked into at 1:00. Can the Packers continue to run the ball the same way against this Vikings defense that stopped the run very well?
Yeah, the Packers averaging a league best 204 yards per game on the ground. Okay, prediction time. What do you got since we're so good at this?
I've doubted the Packers the last 2 weeks. I do think Jordan Love is going to play. It looks, better than the last couple of weeks. They ran the ball over the Vikings at the end of last year. I'm going Packers. I'm not doubting the Pack. Go, Pack, go.
Same here, brother. I like the Packers. That's my Super Bowl winner. I'm not getting off anytime soon. This is a huge game for them. Really, if they have any dreams of winning this division, I'm not going to say it's a must-win in Week 4, but it's leaning closer to must-win than not must-win.
Yeah, so and Jordan Love is a key. Like, obviously, Jordan Love playing is a key because that's one way to beat the Vikings is push that ball downfield, have no fear. Right, the Vikings take advantage of QBs not fully trusting and not ripping it in there. Now you could pay for that with interceptions, but I think Love is that fearless quarterback who's going to rip the ball down the field, take advantage of it. Packers win.
Justin is not here. His picks are. He has a dissenting opinion. He has the Minnesota Vikings, so one of us is going to pick up a game on him, if there is such a thing as picking up a game on guys who are 18 games under 500 and picking it. Let's move to the Sunday night game. The unbeaten Bills checking in at 3-0, taking on the Baltimore Ravens, who are back home after getting their first win of the year. They are at 1-2. You got a 2-time league MVP in Lamar Jackson going against his fellow 2018 first-round draft classmate in Josh Allen. So everybody's on that Bills wagon and saying, oh, the addition by subtraction, Stephon Diggs isn't there. Everybody seems happy and harmonious. And the defense is playing well. I don't know. It feels like this is a game where Baltimore can get back in it and after 4 games be at 500 after a very disappointing start.
Yeah, this is the ultimate, like, okay, everyone's in on Buffalo. Finally, no, bullshit, takes on Josh Allen. He's got 0 interceptions. And then Josh Allen throws like 3 interceptions on prime time. Everyone's like, this guy turns over the ball way too much. But I do think the Bills are just the better. Like, the Ravens are so flawed, and the Bills, to their credit, aren't, right? Like, what's the Bills' biggest weakness, right? We could point to the Ravens, like their pass defense is pretty damn bad. Their offensive line is really bad. I know they ran the ball well, but I think that's more of an indictment on the Cowboys than it is anything. And Josh Allen has been fucking balling, right? 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns. Here's a stat. They're number 1 in yards per pass, but only 14th in total yards. Like, we don't know what the Bills are going to do. In years past, it'd be like, just hand the ball to Josh Allen, let him take over the offense, be hero ball. We don't know if the Bills are going to just try and run the ball all game and then run some play action off of it, or if they will put it in Josh Allen's hands, and I think that's what they want.
Since Joe Brady took over for Ken Dorsey in Week 11 last year, the Bills are 9-1 in the regular season and have averaged the most points per game. We've talked about the usage of James Cook, and obviously that has been instrumental. But you mentioned that Josh Allen, like so far, he hasn't thrown an interception this year. Bobby, you want to give a guess how many times last year we could have said that in a game?
I'll say 6.
3.
3. Oh my God.
So he's already equaled that. But he is playing different. Like, I feel like they're not taking as many chances with Josh Allen. I wouldn't say they're reining him in, but it just feels like, and I thought that Dan Orlovsky made a great point on the Monday Night Football broadcast that you don't have to do everything. And that was the thing we talked about in the preseason with both Lamar and Josh Allen. And it always felt like they're so talented that their teams were like, yeah, that dude could just bail us out at any time. And they're not doing that. They're not asking him to wear his cape on every play. And I think that has helped them a ton.
And I think, one, they don't have Stephon. Like, they did. There was times last year where there's like, why are you throwing this ball to Stephon Diggs? This he's not open. He's double covered. You have somebody else wide open. That's part of the progression. Why is he doing it? And that's why I think they're running the ball. Like, they're not even this amazing rushing team, right? But they're committed to it, and they're forcing you to play it. And then if you start playing it, then we're going to drop it on your head with Josh Allen, the passing game. But I think part of that too is setting it up long term to create some big plays, force teams to play that way. But also is like just less opportunities to like let Josh Allen just do the most with his opportunities, right? And instead of asking him to drop back 45 times per game, and he can do that and he can win like that. But ask him to drop back way less and just be more efficient. And that's that. They're 14th in passing yards, but they're number 1 in yards per pass. And I think that's the way they want to play. And I think they're going to continue to do it.
Meanwhile, you mentioned that the trouble the Ravens defense has had, obviously, Mike McDonald moves on to Seattle. Defense, I wouldn't say they're a mess. They're just not very good.
You know what I'm going to say?
What's that?
Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Roquan Smith, step up. They haven't played well this year, specifically in coverage, right? Yeah, I watched, some of the Cowboys game too. I'm like, Kyle Hamilton, you got beat on a corner route by a fullback. Roquan Smith, you're putting man coverage up the seam against Jake Ferguson, and he's whipping your ass. Like, you're supposed to be different, like best at your position in the NFL, and you're getting beat by lesser players. Like, that's, and this matchup this week, right? Who would you take? Those 3 players versus the Bills' best 3 players outside of Josh Allen. You take those 3 players. Those 3 need to step up.
Okay. I like that. My point was just going to be statistically based, but you came out firing. I kind of dig that. Ravens' best rush defense in the NFL, worst pass defense, and they are giving up 10 more points per game almost this year than they did all of last year. We know that they lost a ton of coaches on that side of the football. That happens when you're a good team, brother.
Yeah.
You got to figure out. Speaking of Mike McDonald, he'll take his show on the road, the 3-0 Seahawks Monday nighter. Once again, we have 2 Monday nighters.
We got to do predictions.
Oh God, I always forget about. You know why I'm not good at them? Because I don't throw myself full bore into the predictions. What do you have in the Ravens Bills game Sunday night?
I'm gonna go Bills win. I think this Bills defense is full of two-way players, so no matter what the Ravens try and do on offense, they'll be successful. And the Ravens are flawed in a lot of areas. The Bills really aren't. Bills win.
This feels like it's a game that John Harbaugh will just get his guys together. There is one thing, and we talked about it on the show earlier this week. Lamar even came out and said, we didn't do a good enough job stepping on their throat when we had them down 28-6. Like, he felt like we stopped playing. Well, that has been kind of a common thread for Baltimore over the years. They've got the most losses in the league when leading by at least a touchdown in the fourth quarter over the last several seasons. I don't think they're going to have to worry about that because I don't think they're going to lead in the fourth quarter. I got the Bills. Our buddy Justin, who do you think he has? Just give a guess.
Bills.
He's got the Ravens. Yeah. Now we can move on. You're going to have to stop me at least 2 or 3 more times, Bobby. That's how stupid I am when it comes to predictions. The Seahawks, unbeaten at 3-0, taking on the Detroit Lions, 2-1. Seattle trying to get to 4-0 for the first time since 2020. Has actually won each of the last 6 matchups when you include the playoffs. The last Lions win Matthew Stafford over rookie Russell Wilson back in 2012. I know how much you dig the Lions. Are they going to finally play more bully ball like they did last week when the combo of Gibbs and Montgomery ran the ball more than 40 times?
I don't know because, like you mentioned, the past matchups, like, oh, well, that's different teams. Here's something. The Seahawks beat the Lions last year, right? In overtime, 37-31 in a shootout. Also, do you know who had the most success versus the Lions last year? Mike McDonald held them to 6 points last year in that game. And the Seahawks, like, I know they've played awful quarterbacks, right? Brissett's not awful, but he's played awful in a bad situation. Brissett, Nix, and Skylar Thompson. Nix, he's young. But so they're number one passing defense, but the Lions, I think this is a really good matchup for Seattle, right? Like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay, well, Devin Witherspoon plays a lot in the slot, right? That's going to be, the matchup that I think decides the game, really. How will they be able to run the ball really well? And I think the Seahawks offense has been going to be able to put up points on this Lions defense. Like, I know we're not doing predictions yet, but I think the Seahawks are winning this game. I think this is a really bad matchup versus the Lions.
Wow. Okay. So you think the Lions could fall to 2-2. Here's my biggest question, and it's something I've wrestled with. I'm so happy for Geno Smith that he has landed in a good place for him because after he fizzled out with the Jets and then, people don't even remember him as like a Charger or a Giant, right? Because he didn't get on the field.
I do.
That was a layup for you. You're welcome for the alley-oop. I'm happy he got this shot. Now I'm trying to figure out how good he is. How good is Geno Smith, do you think?
I think he is good, right? And now if you go down the quarterback ranking list, where would you put him? It'd be somewhere in the teens. But like Geno is like everyone wants to say Sam Darnold is the new Geno Smith. In reality, I think Geno just actually became a good quarterback, right? Like no matter what offense, like he had success with Shane Waldron. We're looking at the lack of success the Bears have with him. They want him fired already. Like I think Geno is a good quarterback. Whether you blitz him, whether you drop back and play zone, he's aggressive. He gets the ball out in the right spots. Like if you just watch Geno's film over the last couple of years, he's been a good QB. And I think he's been good this year. I think the new OC from Washington's been a help. But the Seahawks offense is deadly as like they just no matter how you play them, all three of their wide receivers can lead them in receiving on any given day.
He's completing almost 75% of his passes, over 260 yards per game. I do dig it. I am curious where we would have him in the quarterback rankings. And I guess more importantly, out of all of the playoff contenders, how many times would you take him over the current quarterback? Like, do you think that the Eagles would rather have Geno Smith or Jalen Hurts right now?
Dude, that's like actually a conversation.
What do you think?
I think they might go Geno, man.
He doesn't turn it over nearly as much. Well, nobody does.
Now, Jalen gives you the rushing ability that Geno does not give you at all. But I think if you put Geno in that offense, man, you might actually you might be the number one passing offense in the NFL, and then you got Saquon Barkley. But that's why I think this matchup's good because the Lions did improve in that secondary, but the secondary is not great. And Geno's the ultimate, like, all right, if you're taking away this guy, I'm going to the next guy. Like, he's going to find the guy who wins his matchup, especially when you're playing man coverage and blitzing. Like, he does that so well. But I think they're going to put up 30 points. And, like, Aiden Hutchinson's really the only guy you really, like, are worried about. And I think they're going to do a good job trying to protect against him, right?
Well,
like,
they're going to have to. They're going to have to because their starting right tackle, Abe Lucas, hasn't played all year, right? He still hasn't bounced back from last year's injury. His backup, George Fant, just went on injured reserve. So they're down to the third right tackle, Stone Forsythe, who's one of my favorite names in the NFL because it sounds like he should be working at a country club or maybe
I did a
just
film
golfing.
breakdown on him back in the day.
No, you did. On Stone Forsythe?
Stone Forsythe. He did great versus Azeez Ojulari in that Florida-Georgia matchup.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go.
And then Charles Cross has played really well this year.
He's a good player, though. He's really good.
Yeah, but he had been a little up and down and injured the first 2 years. He's been really good through the first 3 weeks. So, like, Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is going to get his. I'm not going to say, like, I'm not saying he's going to be shut out. He leads the NFL in sacks, total pressure, and pass return rate for a reason. But can anybody else step up? Because last year in this matchup, nobody else. They barely touched Geno Smith in that game last year.
So I am taking it based on the last several minutes that you are going to take the road team.
Yeah, I'm going Seahawks. I think this is it's I think this is a bad matchup for the Lions.
I too will take Seattle, and I expect another barn burner. The last 3 games, these teams have combined for at least 65 points. I can't wait for this one. I think it's going to be a blast on Monday night, and I don't even know if anybody outside of Miami or Tennessee will be watching that other Monday night game at any point. We'll get to that one much, much, much later. Justin is going to make it a clean sweep. We all have Seattle.
How about that? Who would have thought?
That? Who would have thought? Yeah. Well, you know what we all need a little bit more of? To get off our ass. With bold flavors and refreshing citrus kick, Mountain Dew will get you off your ass, have you feeling like you're on an actual mountain. A mountain where the weather's always perfect, your friends are ready to hang, and a day of epic proportions awaits. I know that you love getting outdoors here in late September. Well, guess what? Go have fun with your friends. Get competitive. I don't care whether it's a long drive contest, if you're playing some football, tossing a Frisbee around. Heck, you could have a fishing competition. You could even set up a monitor outside and do some video games. You could play kickball with Kickball Dad if you got him in your cell phone like I do. You could play wiffle ball. You could play pickleball. You could play any kind of ball. It doesn't matter. Why? Because the mountain is calling and you should answer. Grab your friends, grab an ice cold Mountain Dew wherever refreshing beverages are sold, and do the do.
Guess what I'm gonna do after this is over in preparation for the game tonight.
What do you got?
One, I'm gonna look at this, Mountain Dew sponsored NASCAR.
I love that.
Gonna do that. The Arctic ain't coming. I'm gonna go out to the beach, see the winds. I'm gonna do a little, hurricane scouting because it's gonna happen, unfortunately, right during the Giants game. So, the Arctic ain't coming.
Well, be safe down there, my friend. Be safe.
We'll have fun with Mountain Dew.
Okay, so not too far away on Sunday. Hopefully, they will be able to get in the Eagles-Buccaneers game. It'll
be interesting. It's going to destroy Tampa too. We'll see.
Yeah, well, we're sending our thoughts down there. I know a lot of people are like, well, it's going to affect this game and that game in the football world or the baseball world or what have you. Let's think about the good people who are in that path of destruction. So hang in there. As far as the game, if it gets played on time, pair of 2-1 teams. It's a rematch of last year's wild card round in which Tampa Bay just throttled the Eagles and sent Jason Kelce into his next career. 32-9 was the final. Baker threw for 337 and 3 scores. So the Eagles defense was fantastic last week in that win in New Orleans. Gave up just 12 points, held Derek Carr and that crew to less than 220 total yards. Do you expect them to kind of follow in Denver's footsteps, apply the pressure like the Broncos did to Baker, and take away his outside receiving threats?
No, I think Vic Fangio was a great matchup for the Saints, right? And someone, I can't remember who, but they brought up, remember when Vic Fangio stopped that Rams offense in 2018 on the Bears, and it was kind of the blueprint. But the Bucs don't play the way the Saints do. Right, they are very much get your matchups out on the outside, and I think they're gonna you think Baker's been this aggressive guy? He really hasn't. He's been second lowest average depth of target in the NFL, so I don't think they're gonna really get that. Now I don't have a ton of confidence in the Bucs offense, but where I really think this gets ugly is the Eagles offense versus the Bucs defense. This is an awful matchup, and it has been for a while. And they might not have A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue. The Bucs, though, defensively, they couldn't stop a rookie quarterback in his 3rd NFL start last week. I thought Bo Nix did a really good job, certainly staying out of harm's way. That was good. Kalijah Kancey has not played. Your boy has not played.
No, he was big in that playoff game last year, too.
Yeah, Antoine Winfield, he's iffy at best. Vita Vea, they're missing some big parts on that defensive side of the football for the Buccaneers, which has not been good. They have a league low 2 sacks this year. That is not going to get it done at all. Offensively, can we just say this name for the first time this year, I think? Bucky Irving. Like he's the way better running back down there. Like it feels like it's been years since Tampa Bay had a decent running game. Like all we talk about is Baker and his ability to throw the ball. Well, last week he got pressured a ton. He didn't even throw for 175 yards. How about getting a little bit of balance on that side of the football, please?
Yeah, Bucky Irvin has to start for them, and like I mean, Rashad White's been awful, and Bucky Irvin is averaging like 3 times the yards per carry than him. So and he's been good after contact. So I think Bucky Irving's going to get his opportunity there, and out snap Rashad White, or at least he should, because they need to, right? They cannot live with that bad of a rushing offense consistently. As exciting as they are, and they could get the ball to their play, you can't go 2 years in a row with just an awful rushing offense, especially in today's NFL.
You know, that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have not had to worry about since they have the NFL's leading rusher right now. Does it make you sick to your stomach every time you see Saquon bust through the line?
No, not really. Like I'm a little bit happy for it was the right thing for Saquon to leave the Giants. I really do think for both sides. It freed up the Giants to spend a little money on their offensive line, and they've seen the dividends of that early on. And the Eagles are in win now mode, and Saquon Barkley fits that. So like Saquon Barkley we always knew that Saquon Barkley would play well with the Eagles. But here's the thing: will they be able to rush the ball against the Bucs? Because the Bucs, man, even though you look at their raw stats, and like not a great run defense. I think that's been overinflated by Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, scrambling. The Bucs just take away favorable run looks and then blitz you. And Jalen Hurts this has been an awful matchup for Jalen Hurts outside of one regular season game last year.
Yeah.
I know it's only 3 games and one was a couple years ago, but like he's lost to them twice in the playoffs, and you don't have an AJ Brown. Like, will the Bucs be able to stop the run? They're not going to get after the passer, but will they be able to stop the run?
It's all good question. So what say you? What do you have?
I think the Bucs win this game. Like, I think Bucs go into this game saying we are not going to let Saquon Barkley beat you, and that's the way the Eagles have won this year, right? They have won off of the back of Saquon Barkley, and I think the Bucs are going to go into this game and stop that. And then what's your answer? Because if you don't have AJ Brown, I think is the most important player on that offense. If you don't have AJ Brown, then what do you have?
Justin Pennick is on the opposite side. He has got the Eagles in that. So that would make me a decisive vote in this one. I think Baker and the Bucs bounce back. I agree with you. They looked horrible last week, and good for Denver. They came down there and they kicked their ass from the beginning. That really wasn't a game after the first quarter. They've got to get Mike Evans involved. He has been a missing man. I think he's had 5 catches, less than 70 total yards the last couple of weeks. Rediscover him. He's pretty good. I hear he gets you about 1,000 yards per season.
And you just like that matchup for the Bucs, anyways. And Godwin's been balling too. So I just like the Bucs offensive matchups versus the Eagles defense. Can Jalen Carter put together a full game against that interior? Can the Bucs stop him?
That's a great call. All right, Saints and Falcons. New Orleans coming off a first loss of the season at home against the Eagles, taking on a different type of bird, NFC South battle. So the Saints 2-1, the Falcons 1-2. This is the 110th meeting all time. The Saints lead 55-54. I always dig that. I think that's kind of fun. But they have won 9 of the last 12. So we saw what the Falcons are close to being. Like, it reminds me a little bit of that scene in Jerry Maguire for people that saw the old football movie, right? With Tom Cruise as the agent. And Renee Zellweger looks at him and she's like, "You're almost the man I want you to be." Like something like that. The Falcons are almost the team I want them to be, Bobby. They're close. And I think they're going to be okay, but it has to start at home in a divisional battle. Do they have enough to get it done?
No, no, this will come back to bite me. I'm really confident in the Saints this week. Like the Falcons' strength offensively is to run the ball and spread it around. And the Saints are they're built to stop that. Like they stop the run and they have all their DBs are good. Like every single DB on that team is good. So there's like there's no really favorable matchup for the Falcons. Um, like I don't see where the Falcons' advantage is really the thing for me. And the Falcons' run defense isn't good this year after it being really good last year. The Saints are obviously really good running the ball. Um, I like the Saints, matchups on the outside. I just really like the Saints, and I think they're gonna win this game pretty easily.
Yeah, I think listen, you're a Giants fan, but your secret crushes are Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers and Dennis Allen and the New Orleans Saints.
And Clint Kubiak, they're good. They've been a good team, a good defense for a while. Not a good team
Well,
for a while.
this year, the Saints are only one of 3 teams to uphold all 3 opponents under 20 points per game. The other 2 are the Steelers and the Vikings. So yes, the Saints have been very, very good. And Atlanta cannot get to the passer at all. They have 3 sacks.
No, that's the way to beat Derek Carr. And they have it's only Judon, and Judon's not like lighting the world up on fire either. Like that's the only guy they have, and he's not Aiden Hutchinson where he can be a one-man show like he is in Detroit.
I want Atlanta to be better. I love their targets. They're fun. Like Kirk Cousins was playing great last year. He obviously hasn't returned to those levels since injuring his Achilles. Their offensive line is, we don't know what it's going to look like on Sunday at all, but they're going to be banged up against a really good Saints defense. Everything is pointing toward the New Orleans Saints winning on the road. And by the way, in their last 18 divisional road games, they've won 14 of them. Like, that's a big, big number. So why the hell am I taking the Falcons?
Because you believed in them before the season and you didn't believe in the Saints before the season.
Yeah, and I can't get off of that. That's a loser way to think. I don't feel good about it. I know who you're taking.
Yeah, I feel very confident in the Saints. Can Bijan Robinson get it going versus them? Like that's my question, because that's the way that the Atlanta offense can really get success. I know that the weapons are fun, and Mooney's actually leaving them in receiving, which is very funny. But they need to run the ball, and the Saints have been really good against that. And Bijan has not like lit the world on fire yet, because I think they're looking for him. Like they know that's the way to beat the Falcons is stopping Bijan Robinson.
Your talking Giants buddy, Justin Pennick, also likes the Saints. So it's 2 against 1 right there. You and Pennick trying to bully ball me.
Somebody's got to get back on track this week.
Okay. This is a fun one. The 2-1 Commanders out in the desert to take on the 1-2 Arizona Cardinals in the welcome back Cliff Kingsbury game.
Yeah, revenge game.
9 games under 500 in 4 seasons as the head coach of the Cardinals. Did make a playoff appearance there as well. So Monday night, the entire world saw the coming out party for Jaden Daniels, who went 21 of 23 and threw a remarkable touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin. I mean, it wasn't just that he's completing 91% of his passes on little screens and dump down. He made some critical passes when they were nursing a lead on the road against a desperate team that has Super Bowl aspirations. I know you said at the beginning of the year or in preseason that you liked Jaden Daniels. You didn't love him. Has your thought on him changed at all over these 3 weeks?
No. If anything, it's now week 3, I think, steadied the ship on what I thought about him, because like I did think he can, like, you put him in covers, like that exact throw that he made to win the game, or put the game on ice, last week. I saw him do that against Mississippi State. Like they all out blitz, throw the ball to Malik Neighbors, this time versus Terry McLaurin. So like I think he throws the ball deep, well down the field when you force him to. But the Bengals on that play basically forced him to with the play call. I think we like to overreact to primetime so much. I'm still not in love with like this Commanders offense, and I think their defense is awful, right? So if they had an average defense, I'd probably be a little more excited. But I think that defense is awful to where I can't get too excited on the Commanders. Like Cam
Um,
Taylor was right. That is a college offense. They just couldn't stop it.
right. Well, but nobody stopped it. They haven't punted nor turned it over in the last 2 weeks. The only thing they've done is kneel down at the end of halves and games. Um, but they're fun to watch. Like
Absolutely.
at the beginning of the season, Cardinals Commanders was on nobody's radar. And now all of a sudden you're like, I got to check this out. Like I'm fascinated by it. I just love it that Jaden Daniels is completing 80% of his passes and hasn't turned it over yet. Like he seems like a kid that can get better. I don't know if it's going to be under Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Like my oldest brother, who just, he watches as much as he can. He's not going to watch every game. He's a big football fan, but he's not a football head, right? He's like, did the Browns interview Cliff Kingsbury in the offseason? I'm like, no. Nobody interviewed Cliff Kingsbury in the offseason.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I still don't think it's a good hire. I think they are doing their best to get through this year. What I like about Jaden Daniels so far is what I thought he should do as he develops, because I think he can develop, right? Like I've said, if I had the third pick and Caleb Williams and Drake May were off the board, I would take Jaden Daniels. But what he's doing is when he doesn't fully trust what he's seeing, he's running and he's having a lot of success doing that. 88 rushing yards week one versus the Bucs. He had a lot of third down and long conversions versus the Giants as a rusher, and he didn't have to do it as much versus Cincinnati, or didn't do it as much effectively, but he did have a touchdown doing it. So I think he's trusting his legs, but I'm not like the whole world. I feel like overreacted to Monday night being like, oh my gosh, he is him. It's so easy. If we did a redraft, we would have to take him first overall. I think the whole world is overreacting to primetime football, which is one of the most beautiful things about this country. Is that's what we do. We watch a game on primetime, and that's what we overreact to it.
It's a great call. You mentioned how bad both defenses are. If you have a player on your bench in fantasy from either Arizona or Washington, start them this week. Like if there's even a question, start them. Washington has given up a league worst 9 touchdown passes in 3 games. Arizona quarterbacks are completing 75% of their passes against them. So that ball's going to be flying and it's going to be a ton of fun. With all that being said, your winner is?
I'm going to go with Captain Morgan, because this episode is brought to you by Captain Morgan, the official spice rum sponsor of the NFL. The NFL season, you need the right players in the game, and sometimes you need to spice things up. Same goes for your drinks. When it gets bland, try Captain Morgan Original Spice Rum. It's delicious and crisp. Perfect for game day with friends. Spice it up. They're doing that old fantasy football league, the Playmakers, the Captain Morgan's Playmakers League. Dalton's winning that. Nerd. But he's doing really good. Justin's doing all right. So the ball is in Justin's court. So visit CaptainMorgan.com to find Captain near you. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Original Spice Rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company, New York, New York. You'll be glad you did. I'm picking the Cardinals. 2 bad defenses. Kyler's a better QB. Man.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be tough for Washington. Monday night, short week, cross country. Everybody's sniffing them. I just think everything says Cardinals. And the Cardinals, I thought, did a good job of hanging with the Detroit Lions in a slugfest, which I wasn't so sure that they could do.
They hung with the Bills too,
Yeah, like I think that they've played well. They're a much improved team. I don't know how many more wins that translates into, but they're a good team. They won't be picking 4th this year, I can tell you that. Justin will seal it for a sweep with the Arizona Cardinals as well. All right, pair of 1 and 2 teams in the Windy City. You got the Rams, who saved their season, bouncing back against the San Francisco 49ers. They overcame a couple of 14-point deficits in that one. Chicago Bears, in the meantime, offensively, they continue to be a mess. Caleb Williams threw it 52 times last week in a losing effort in Indianapolis. I don't know. This is one of those huge, huge games, it feels like, for both teams. but for different reasons. The Rams, they need to just get to the point where they're going to get healthy again, because I think a healthy Rams team is a fascinating squad down the stretch in the NFC. For the Bears, if they lose and their offense continues to look so porous, we're going to be sitting here, Bobby, saying, well, do they have the right coaching staff? Is Caleb Williams even the right dude? Will they make an in-season coaching change? Like, you can feel that tidal wave coming soon.
I think it should come regardless, even if they start to figure it out a little bit offensively, or Caleb Williams stops turning over the ball, because Caleb Williams has actually done some really nice things. Like, they're coaching him as if he's Peyton Manning, and he's a rookie going into his fourth game, where they're just putting so much on his plate, and he's like doing some good stuff, but he's also forcing the issue and turning over the ball, and his just deep accuracy has been way off this year, where he's missed so many deep passes, which is obviously uncommon for Caleb Williams if you watched him. But they can't they're the worst rushing team in the NFL. I know the Raiders are probably statistically the worst rushing team in the NFL, but I don't think there's a worse team than the Chicago Bears. I mean, the starting back is averaging like 1 yard per carry in DeAndre Swift, which was always a dumb signing. Like, why did they, if they were going to spend money on a running, why didn't they spend the extra money on a Josh Jacobs or a Saquon Barkley, who they were in on? Like, why didn't they spend the extra money on, like, read the tea leaves? Two teams who have gotten good success out of Swift that said, we don't want you. We'd rather trade up in the first round or pay Saquon Barkley, $13 million per year than have this guy who's been successful on our team. It was so obvious that DeAndre, like, he's an awful running back, and they paid him. Why would they do that? Pay Tony Pollard. Just don't pay fucking DeAndre Swift.
So you and DeAndre do not exchange holiday cards, is what I'm getting.
Nope.
You're not even going to fight a little bit on that, are you?
We don't exchange Passover cards, but like, I want to like the Bears, Rose. I really do.
I know.
But they make it impossible.
It's been a really tough watch. Like, I mean, my job on Sundays is to watch every game. When we have a setup there where we have a theater and we have all games. Now, there were not as many early games last week as there have been, right? There were 2 Monday nighters. There were a lot of late ones. So we were getting more of the kind of ancillary games on the big screen. And we'd put them up there and we're like, which quarterback is making a worse play between Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams? It was a tough watch. Like, you want to see these young guys take steps. And we understand that there's going to be days where it's not going to be good at all. But you had one guy who's completing half of his 20 passes and another dude who's thrown it 52 times. It's not the Chicago way. I mean, and I don't want him to run for 200 yards a game, because I do think Caleb Williams is an elite talent. But man, it just feels like they're spinning their wheels and he's not making any progress. That's what worries me.
I saw a lot of good out of Caleb. It's just the bad has been really, the 2 interceptions and a fumble. Like,
but do you see progress with him from a coaching standpoint? Do you see improvement?
Oh yeah, I think he's like actually seeing the field pretty well. It's just he's playing too much hero ball. He needs to slow down. Like, they're not in that spot. Here's the issues. There's no easy buttons. Like, have you seen any play from Caleb Williams where it's like good offensive play call? That was nice and easy throw. He gets to deliver it. Like, no, everything is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just no easy buttons, and that's why Shane Waldron has got to be the most hated guy in Chicago right now.
One other shout out to a particular player. Kyron Williams has turned into a really, really good running back. And he has scored a rushing touchdown in 6 straight games. The only other Rams player to do that is Eric Dickerson. Let me correct that. He has 20. I got the wrong stat on that. He has scored a touchdown in 6 straight games, rushing touchdown. He has 20 in 25 games. That's the more impressive one. Only Eric Dickerson has done that in Rams history. So to be mentioned with the greatest running back in franchise history and one of the best we've ever seen run the football, that's pretty damn good. Good for him. Sorry, I butchered your great stat, Kyron. Who do you have as a winner?
Both these teams are so flawed. This was the toughest one I had picking when I was doing my notes. I wrote down Bears, but you know what? The Rams are just really well coached, and the Bears aren't. I'm gonna go. I'm going Bears. I wrote down Bears. I'm going Bears.
Hmm.
I'm sticking with it.
That away, you're going against the two of us, both Pennick and myself.
The Bears have a
Eh,
good defense.
They do. Rams in this one for both the big boy and me. Let's move on to the Broncos and Jets. Broncos on the road for the second straight week. They got their first win of the season in Tampa. They're 1-2 as they take on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, who are coming off the mini bye after they throttled New England on that Thursday night. It's Nathaniel Hackett against Sean Payton, part deux. Remember, the Jets won by 10 last year. Brees Hall ran for $177. These are the two teams, by the way, that have the longest playoff droughts in the NFL. The Jets at 13 years, the Broncos at 8. They haven't made the postseason since they won Super Bowl 50. Is there any way that Denver can make it 2 straight road wins?
I really don't think so. The Bo Nix Broncos have been throw the ball short, throw the stuff and we just saw what the Jets did to a Patriots offense that does the exact same thing. I just don't see where the offensive success comes versus a Jets defense that is pretty damn good. They don't have the same pass rush that they could have or had the last couple of years. But I think the Jets win this game pretty handedly.
Yeah, they're going to be their next 2 games are going to be really, really fun. They're in London against the Vikings next week. After that, they play host to the Bills on Monday Night Football. So those 2 games are going to be awesome to watch. This one will not be. It's going to be very, very one-sided. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers has to play a huge role in this. As I mentioned, Brees Hall almost 180 rushing yards against the Denver Broncos last year in that game. And since the start of last season, only Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyreek Hill have more scrimmage yards than Brees. He's been that good. I know that he's, sharing some of the load with Braylon Allen, who's done a remarkable job so far, but I would expect Hall to get a healthy dose this week against the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix seems like he's getting a little bit better, so that's good for Denver.
Yeah, he had a nice week 3.
Yeah. By the way, he is the 3rd first-round quarterback with 0 touchdown passes and at least 4 picks in his first 3 career starts. The other 2?
Alex Smith has to be one of those, right?
Alex Smith is one. You want to guess who the other one is?
I knew it was Alex Smith because I think Alex Smith had 1 touchdown his rookie year.
I think you're right.
Tim Rattay was the starter that year. So the other one,
I'll give you a hint.
Okay. If you give me a hint, it's going to give it away, but okay.
He hasn't played a game in 40 years, but is still very much a part of the NFL lexicon.
Steve Young.
You think Steve Young's that old?
40. Oh, is it Joe Namath?
No, that's a great guess, though.
Yeah, I guess 40 years was a long time. Well, when was Steve Young's last year?
Steve Young's last year was early 2000s, I think, maybe late 90s.
I'm tripping a little bit there. I don't know. Who is it?
Terry Bradshaw.
Okay. I love Terry Bradshaw.
There you go. So you have the Jets in this one. I have the Jets in this one. Pennick has the Jets in that one. Unbeaten Chiefs checking in at 3-0, taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. That's Bobby's Los Angeles Chargers, 2-1, coming off their first loss, and they lost more than a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They pulled their quarterback. They lost their 2 offensive tackles. We don't know about Joey Bosa yet. And Derwin James got suspended a game for an illegal hit again on Pat Freiermuth. So we're not 100% sure that Justin Herbert is going to play in this one. It is trending that direction. If not, it's going to be Taylor Heineke, who went 1-3 as a Falcons starter a year ago. This is Mahomes' 100th career start. I don't know, Bobby. How worried are you that your adopted AFC team is going to fall to 500?
The injuries make it tough. I mean, like you mentioned, both the tackles, Bosa did not practice on Wednesday. I think the Chiefs win because they're too injured. If the Chargers weren't this injured, I actually would pick the Chargers. Not because I think they're better in the long run, but I think this game means a lot for the Chargers, and it doesn't mean that much for the Chiefs. Chiefs have started off 3-0, so no slow start. This is just another divisional game versus them. Where the Chargers have probably have had this game circled on their calendar for a long time. It's like this is the game we actually show the world, right? Our first three games weren't the toughest games in the world. This is where we show the world. And hell, I think they might be 3-0 if Justin Herbert doesn't get injured. They were tied at the time when it happened. Um, but the Chargers are just too injured. And if Justin Herbert's going to be limited in what he's doing, like he can't be as much of a hero, I think the Chiefs win this game.
Yeah, the Chiefs always have a kind of a game in the first month where they don't play great. It's usually on the road. Most of the time they walk out with an L, like it happened at Tennessee a couple of years ago. It happened at Indy. It could have been last week in Atlanta. The Falcons had 8 plays in the last 6 minutes within the Chiefs 20 and scored 0 points in that time. Now, Kansas City's defense statistically this year is nothing to write home about. Like they are middle of the pack at best in a lot of categories. But when it comes up with game on the line and needs to make a play, I don't know what category that fits into, but that's Steve Spagnuolo to a T. They have figured that out. I don't think it's going to come down to crunch time here. I'm worried about Herbert's health. I actually don't think that this one is very close at all. I'm more curious to see if Travis Kelce catches more than 2 or 3 passes. He's got 8 receptions this year for 69 total yards, Bobby.
Yeah, he need to get his ass in shape. Um,
Whoa.
he doesn't look the same. I think he will. I would think he will, but I do think there is something to it, even though no one wants to say it, that like he kind of spent his offseason being a celebrity, right? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah,
did
but
he
it's
spend his
also
offseason of trying to like I'm not saying he didn't work out or anything, but he
yeah,
was a
it's
celebrity this offseason.
that's fair, but he's also in his mid-30s playing a pretty
I
physically
agree.
demanding
That's
position.
why
So,
if he was 27, sure. So I think he's going to play himself into shape eventually this year, but he doesn't look great. It's not
no.
just the way teams are playing. Like he doesn't look amazing. And he,
Uh,
he looked like he had lost a step last year, despite the fact that he was still super successful.
yeah, particularly in the playoffs. He was great during that run. Do we all have the Chiefs on this one? Say aye.
Yeah, I
Aye.
fucking hate it, dude. If they weren't injured, I'd pick the Chargers. I want the Chargers to know that if you weren't so injured, I would pick you.
That'll make them feel better. The team that did hand the Chargers their first loss, 3-0 Pittsburgh Steelers at the Indianapolis Colts, 1-2. Steelers looking to go 4-0 for the 5th time ever. Twice before, they won the Super Bowl back in the 70s when that has happened. I don't know. We've seen enough of this team. We know that they are a badass defense. And Justin Fields, you can say whatever you want. He makes 1 play a game. They've only scored 3 touchdowns. They have 3 wins. Doesn't matter. That's a recipe for success so far.
Yeah, I don't know if this was on the week 1 recap or the power rankings episode, but it's like this is the way the Steelers offense should play this year with their defense. But I still don't have to say that I'm impressed by it. But the Colts stink. The Steelers are gonna fucking rampage that Colts offense. And if they need Anthony Richardson to start not missing guys by 20 yards. Like that's the only, if Anthony Richardson just has this random amazing game, then the Colts have a chance. If not, this should be the Steelers, honestly, their easiest win of the year.
TJ Watt is going to most likely jump over the Century Club in terms of sacks. Only Reggie White would have gotten to 100 in fewer NFL games. That's pretty good company for him. Colts, if you run the football, which I think is pretty hard against the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's your lone hope. And oh, by the way, rediscover Michael Pittman at some point. At some point this year, he's averaging fewer than 30 yards per game as they've gotten off to a 1-2 start. I've got the Steelers. Penick has got the Steelers. Bobby, you've got.
I got the Steelers 4-0, baby.
The Jacksonville Jaguars trying to get off the schneid. It was an embarrassing loss Monday night in Buffalo, 47-10. They are 0-3. Houston Texans, they'll be hosting Jacksonville in an AFC South matchup. Houston coming off a 34-7 drubbing at Minnesota. I mean, are we talking that this is Jacksonville's season on Sunday, or is it already lost?
Oh, their season's already lost. I mean, they can turn it around and have some success, but they're not a playoff team. I want to ask you this question because I asked it because everyone's going to go towards the quarterback when we talk about the Jags. All right, and Trevor Lawrence has not been good. Um, and he had the generational tag, and he has not been generational. Rank the Jags offensive players,
I like Brian Thomas a lot. I think he's very, very good.
including quarterback, by the way.
I think that ETN is a good player.
Cam Robinson's a good player.
I think that Evan Ingram is a good player. He hasn't played the last 2 weeks. I think he is a good player. Their offensive line is a mystery to me because it is very veteran laden and it has been demolished so far this season. Like they have credible players on there. Ezra Cleveland came over in a trade from Minnesota and played very well. Mitch Morse has had a good career. He comes over from Buffalo. Brandon Sheriff was one of the best guards in Washington. I don't know exactly how it's worked out here. I don't study offensive line nearly the way that you do. Cam Robinson has been a turnstile this
He's been
year.
awful. And he's been like their most consistent player over the last like 5,
right.
6 years since he's been there.
Right. And then Anton Harrison was a first rounder who's still kind of getting his feet wet. But that's there. You have to admit, and you were more on the Trevor Lawrence train than I was. I mean, you were like, you have to give him his money. And I understand. I agree.
I still
with
feel
that
way too.
But he hasn't been good.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't been good the last 2 weeks. But this is where.
But it's more than that. He wasn't good the first week either. Threw a couple good passes.
Yeah, okay, I agree. But this is my point though, because again, Trevor Lawrence absolutely has to be better, right? But there is like this big contingency of like, oh my God, this guy's just Daniel Jones. Like, this is why I asked the question.
That.
Rank the Jags offensive players. Like, who is your number one, number two, number three?
I mean, I do think that Brian Thomas has got the most talent on that team offensively.
But just I think like put him on any team. You're starting a team, not looking at positional value. You're just trying to put together the best talent. Rank 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I would put him number one. I think he's the most talented player.
You put Brian Thomas Jr. number one.
I would. On offense,
where would Lawrence go? Because Lawrence would be number one for me, and it's not just a QB positional value. I truly think he's their best player. He's lifted some boats while he's there, but he's also been, not as advertised either.
Yeah, he's also the one that's drilling the hole in the bottom of it at times. They've lost 8 straight starts, dude, of his. 8 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he made a great throw week 1 to Thomas in the back of the end zone. Like, led him perfectly. It was a beautiful, beautiful pass. But he's been flawed. His accuracy hasn't been phenomenal at all.
No.
Again, in the quarterback draft, dude, Kurt Warner and I had this discussion one time. We were coming back from our Saturday games together, that late December Saturday game on NFL Network. And we're talking about the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. And this is when Lawrence in 2022 started to really play good football. And I was like, Trevor Lawrence. He's like, what? So every time he doesn't play well, guess who texts me? Kurt Warner. And all he writes is top 10 ? He is never going to let me live that down. So I'm rooting for Trevor Lawrence to get his shit straight. Can't take it. With that being said, do you have a prediction here?
Yeah, Texans win. They got to bounce back from that Vikings game.
I believe that the Texans will be winners here as well. So too does Justin Pennick. You know what I can't believe? I can't believe how expensive it is to enjoy a decent home-cooked meal nowadays. Can't even go to the grocery store without getting sticker shock, right? You're buying.
I know. I was needing that 0.5% of your salary, and now you can't eat this week.
No, that's okay. That's okay. If I was here for the show that day, you would have been able to enjoy the fruits of my labor, but it's not happening. But here's what I want you to do, Bobby. I want you to listen. I got an awesome solution for you that's got your back. That is Every Plate. Every Plate delivers dependable, affordable, delicious recipes right to your door. And forget about the sticker shock. Bobby, Every Plate meals start at $2.99 per meal. That's not $299. That's $2.99. Makes sense why they are America's best value meal kit with thousands of great reviews. Each box contains pre-portioned ingredients, easy-to-follow recipes, ready in 30 minutes or less. Seriously, their meals end up being even more affordable than your fast food go. Plus, they're home-cooked. made with fresh ingredients and plenty of love. So join Every Plate today and pay only $2.99 per meal. Plus, get 50% off your first box for all box sizes. Get this amazing deal by going to everyplate.com/podcast. Enter the code football299. That is football299 at everyplate.com/podcast. Your belly will be full and you will be a happy, happy camper. All right, we're going to run through the last few games. Winless Bengals visit their old buddy Andy Dalton and the 1-2 Carolina Panthers. Is this the week that Cincinnati finally puts it together, or will the misery continue?
They have to. I actually think Adam Thielen being out. Here's something funny. So since the Bengals let go of Andy Dalton, they have played him now on the Panthers,
yes,
the Cowboys, the Bears, and the Saints. 4 NFC teams that he spent little time on, and he always ends up playing against the Bengals. I love it, but I do have the Bengals in this game.
He is Cincinnati Bengals all-time leading touchdown thrower at 204 yards. Bad news, Bengals. You've never made the playoffs after an 0-3 start. This is the 16th year, so you're going to try that. The good news is, Bengals, you will not be 0-4. You are going to get a win on the road. Justin Pennick believes that as well. Battle of teams that are kicking themselves for being 1-2 after losing at home to winless NFC squads. My Browns at the Las Vegas Raiders. Who wins the disappointing bowl?
The Browns win 9-7.
Oh, gosh. I'm going to have to sit through a 9-7 game?
The 2 worst offenses in football right here, baby.
I am really worried about the health of and the ability of the Browns' offensive line.
It's so bad.
It has been horrific. Wyatt Teller's out at least a month. So Zach Zinter, the rookie third-round pick out of Michigan, is going to replace him. We still don't know who's starting at the tackles. Guys are injured. Guys have been terrible. That is really scary against the front line where I know Max Crosby isn't 100% healthy, but I have seen him play, and he is a nut job. I've been wrong in every Browns prediction so far this season. I picked against them the first – oh, wait. No, I was right the first week because Dallas got them. Damn it, that ruins my thinking. I'll pick the Raiders, and so the Browns will win. Justin Pennick also picks the Raiders. So, Bobby, you're flying solo on that one. Pats at 1-2, Niners at 1-2. San Francisco didn't trail in that game last week until 3 seconds to go, thanks to a Cardi Party field goal that gave the Rams the win. Is this one even close?
No, 49ers got to beat up on somebody after these last 2 weeks. Make your kicks. 49ers win.
Yeah, I'm afraid for the Patriots with their lack of a passing game. They are dead last in yards per game. They're averaging 102 passing yards per game.
They have not completed one deep pass the entire year.
You mean more than 20 air yards?
Yeah, Brissett is 0 for 5. He has the lowest attempt rate, and he hasn't completed one.
That's brutal. All 3 of us have the Niners in that one. Monday Night Football. Dun, 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 dun.
Prime time loves Titans versus Dolphins. Second time in 2 years.
0-3 Titans, 1-2 Dolphins. Will you even turn the TV on?
No, I'm glad that the mismatch is so bad that I will, because I think this game starts first. So I'll put it on for an hour while I'm working on the. Actually, I don't have to work on the O-line report because the Giants play Thursday night this week. Hell yeah. Yeah, I'll TV this one. I picked the Titans to win, I think, every single week. At some point, they will have to win a game. I'm picking the Titans.
And Will Levis?
Yeah. I mean, the Dolphins, what do they have?
Well, it's going to be either Tim Boyle, who's 0-5 as a starter, or Snoop Huntley, who's 3-6 in the regular season.
It should be Huntley, but
it should be Huntley.
I don't care if he doesn't even know the playbook. I don't care if he has, knows one play. It probably should be Huntley over Tim Boyle.
I can't watch Brian Callahan.
Didn't the Jets start Tim Boyle in the game last year?
I believe you're right. I can't watch Brian Callahan with a constipated face yet again. Can I? I think I'm going to have to. I think I'm going with the Miami Dolphins in this one.
How about that?
Jeez, oh man. And Justin Pennick's going to go with the Titans. Once again, if you're looking for information on Thursday Night Football, we usually do that in this show. Check out the latest episode of Talkin' Giants. They will have you covered from the opening kick until the final gun. I wish you luck. Just so I can get on the record, I'm picking the Giants in that game. There you go.
Damn, your record really is bad this year.
Yes, it is.
So is
All
mine.
of our
Mine's
records.
actually worse, but
Yeah, all of ours are horrific. Justin Pennick will rejoin us for Monday's show, which we cannot wait for as we break down what transpired in week 4 for Bobby Skinner. I am Chris Rose. We will see you next time here on Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL.